Hi, good evening all, and thank you so much for joining today's exclusive webinar. My name is Ashish Asthana. First of all, extremely sorry for the delay. There was some technical glitch because of which we were unable to connect. So now we are good to go. Of Motilal Oswal S&P 500 Index Fund, right? I'm sure that we have received a lot of queries from our investors and would like to know, in this current market scenario, what should be an ideal investment, right? Should I go with individual stocks? Follow index? I think this is the right time for the launch of this fund, for knowing all our investors about this fund. What is this fund all about?
Hi Pratik, I think you can start off. I think it's on.
I can't. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I missed the last bit, but good evening, friends. I'm excited to talk to you about a new NFO that we're having. You know, this fund is something very close to my heart, and I'm very proud to sort of have it in India. So this is the first fund of its kind in India, and I think it's a very special one because of how historic and iconic this fund is. So just to give you, maybe I'll take 10 to 15 minutes talking about the fund, talking about some of the specifics of the fund, the features, and then maybe we can open it up to a few questions from all of you. So basically the S&P 500 is actually a very historic index. It's a very historic fund itself. So it was actually launched in the 1970s. In fact, the S&P 500 is the world's largest. It was the world's first passive fund ever launched. It was the first index fund ever launched in the 1970s, and it was launched by a company called Vanguard Mutual Fund. And Vanguard Mutual Fund was starting up back then, almost half a century ago. So fast forward 50 years, and now the S&P 500 is one of the largest, most traded, and most liquid ETFs and index funds in the world. And Vanguard Asset Management Company, the company that started with this fund, has now become the world's largest mutual fund company. So I think not only has this index survived, but also thrived over the last half century. In fact, the roots of this fund go back all the way back to the 1930s. So you're getting a fund which has almost 100-year track record. So in terms of, I think so it's a very historic fund in term, and even though it's a it's a very US based fund, you have to understand that 40% of the sales of this fund is actually coming from their operations globally. So what does that mean? That means that if you look at all these 500 companies, this fund is this index is comprised of 500 of the largest companies in the US. Even though it's a US based index, almost half of 40% of its revenue is coming from the offshore operations. So what that means is if you look at Apple, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Spotify, all these companies, their US businesses are very stable. But if you look at their offshore operations, that's where they're getting exponential growth coming from. So not only do you get a fund which has some of the best known brands in the world, but you also get their global strategy and the global growth strategy that they're embarking upon. So that is something which so in terms of what is the S&P 500? The S&P 500 is the leading 500 companies in the US. So if you look at the US today, top 500 companies will be part of the S&P 500. They're all large cap stocks, and they're all some of the largest companies in the world. And in fact, I think the reason why this is a very important fund in terms of size, this fund is almost managing close to $10 trillion. That's the amount of assets that are being benchmarked to this fund. So what that means is this single fund has almost 3 times India's GDP. India's size is something that is benchmarked on this fund. So it's a very large fund. And even if you look at guys like Warren Buffett, who's the world's largest investor, what he said is that when he passes away, he wants 90% of his savings to be invested in the S&P 500 and 10% in government bonds. So basically, today, if you look at all of us today, all of our portfolios today are in stocks and funds that are India based. And India, if you look at it, has India's share of world GDP is only 3%. So all of us are actually missing out on 97% of global GDP. And this fund itself give you access to the 25% of global GDP, which is coming from the US market. So I think if you add this fund to your asset allocation or to your portfolio, what you're getting is the world's fastest growing GDP, which is India, but you're also combining it with the world's largest GDP, which is the US. So so we got to understand how important this fund is, but why should we take it seriously? Why should an average investor today take the S&P 500 very seriously? I mean, why should we take international investing very seriously? And to answer that question, I'm giving you two reasons to why you should invest globally. So before saying that, I just want to let you know that global investing is very common in other parts of the world. So if you look at the US or if you look at Europe, almost all investors want to hold an S&P 500 is because of low correlation. So what does that mean? What that means is that if it's so let me give you an example. So if you see, and regardless of any mutual fund that you owned yesterday or 2 months ago, whether it was a large cap or a mid cap or a small cap, everything went down 20 to 30%. And because everything went down to 20 to 30%, the idea is that even though you feel like you're diversified with Indian equity or different mutual funds, you're not really diversified, because when stuff goes bad, everything goes down together. Whereas if you look at global equities, they move in very different directions. If you look at the correlation of global funds or of Indian funds, it's around 80 to 90%. Whereas if you look at global funds and Indian funds, it's a correlation of S&P 500 is a correlation of 0.15, which is 15%. So what that does is that having the S&P 500 in a portfolio reduces the volatility of the portfolio dramatically. Number one, and number two, it gives you a downside protection. In case something bad happens in an Indian market. So I think that is very important. So I think as an asset allocation strategy, it's important for all of us to have a minimum of 10 to 15 allocation to global equities, and the S&P 500 makes it very simple. The next reason, the most important reason to why investors should take the S&P very seriously is the dollar hedge. So in this fund, you're not only getting some of the best companies in the world, the top 500 companies. So today, if I showed you a logo of the top 500 US brands versus the logo of a top 500, say, Indian brands, you would probably relate to a lot more of the US brands, if you look at top 500 companies. So it's very relatable, number one. And number two, so you are getting one asset class, which is basically, all of these growing companies. The other asset class that you're getting in the same fund is the dollar. So why is the dollar important? Why should you hold your money in dollars? I think it's very important to understand that the dollar the rupee has depreciated like crazy over the last 10 years. The rupee has depreciated 4.5 to 5% every year, just over the last 10 years. So what that means is that your value of your investments have fallen by 5% every year from a global landscape. So if, for example, if I was an investor in the US 10 years ago, and if I invested in India, so my returns would have been 0.8% CAGR for the last 10 years. Last 10 years, that was what my returns would be, whereas an Indian investor would have the same fund give him 10 to 12%. So what we realize is that, I think global investors have lost out because of the currency depreciation, and this specific fund helps you, fight that currency depreciation. So the entire fund is a dollar denominated product. You are holding dollars. And the reason why the dollar is also important is because if you think about it, a lot of our expenses in the future are in the form of a dollar. What does that mean? So I'll give you my simple example. If I went to the same school as I did 10 years ago, if I went to the US, I went to the US 10 years ago. If I went to the same school 10 years ago, same college, same degree, my cost of education would be 2.5, maybe 3 times what I paid 10 years ago. And it's not because of the cost of education going down, it's because of the dollar working against us. What we're seeing today is we are going for more foreign trips. we are going for, I would say, sending our kids to educations abroad. And what we're also doing is, we are like a lot of our expenditure, for example, the Apple iPhone. The reason why the Apple iPhone is expensive is less to do with the cost of the phone, but more to do with the dollar. The dollar used to be 40, 45 10 years ago. Today it's close to 75, 80. So I think this fund helps you, sort of buy a dollar denominated asset, which again reduces the portfolio volatility and also, gives you extra return if the rupee depreciates even more in the next few years, which is what is expected. And lastly, I just want to say that, in terms of competitive landscape, even that has changed a lot in India. Today, if I had to buy a car today, I would either buy, I don't have an option between Tata Motors and Maruti. I can buy Hyundai, I can buy Kia. So when you think about it, India's, so today my wallet share or all our wallet shares are split between global products and local products. So I think if you're consuming a lot of these services and products, it's important for our portfolios to also evolve with the same companies, So which is why I think, it's important to have some allocation to global equities, and the S&P 500 makes perfect sense. Why does it make perfect sense? Because S&P 500, as I said, is the world's one of the oldest indexes, and it's an index fund. So because it's an index fund, it's one of the cheapest funds in India. So you're saving fees, and as we all know, finding a fund manager in India is not easy. Finding a fund manager is even harder. On top of that, the data shows that the index has outperformed 90% of all fund managers in the US for the last 10 to 15 years. So what you're doing is with this fund is you're buying a pure large cap fund, which is some of the best brands. You're getting a fund that will reduce the volatility of your portfolio dramatically. You will be having a fund that is offering you dollar as an asset class. So you will be protected against further depreciation, and you'll also make sure that your goals are intact. And number four, you're also doing portfolio diversification, because as you all know, today every single mutual fund has a very similar kind of stocks, So it's important to add Coca-Cola, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, all these companies that all of us relate to on a daily basis. And I think that diversification has a lot of benefits going forward. The reason why the index is great is, as I said, it's a passively managed index. So the reason why index funds are preferred by global investors is because they have some of the highest performances. And number two, you'll never be disappointed with the performance because you're managing the index. So you'll never ever need to really buy this or sell something else. So this is a product that you can see yourself investing for very long time periods. So that was the fund. What is the Motilal Oswal fund? The Motilal Oswal fund is an index fund. So it's an open-ended index fund with a minimum of 500 rupees investment. So we are giving you access to 500 of the biggest companies in the world for 500 rupees. So I think the minimum amount is 500 rupees. It's a 100% equity index. It's an index fund. It's a passively managed fund. You're buying some of the best companies, and in terms of expense ratio, it's one of the lowest out there. In terms of tax structure, as this is a very common question that we get, in terms of tax structure, this is also as per SEBI regulation, all international funds have to be taxed as debt, as debt products. So what does that mean? That means debt taxation will apply to this fund as well, and will apply to all international funds. But I know that people don't like debt taxation, but this shouldn't deter you from investing in this. The reason why I say is because if you think about it, this is part of your asset allocation that you hope to keep for a minimum of 3 years. And if you keep it for 3 years, you can actually get benefits of indexation. What that means is that if you hold it for a 3 years minimum period, which I think you should hold it for even longer, you can actually expect equity taxation or even lower than equity taxation, because you can adjust your tax rate by inflation. So I think that is some of the features of the product. I think just to wrap up this presentation, maybe I can open it up for a few questions and answers. The S&P 500, as I said, is one of the world's largest indexes. It's the most common, most highly traded. And I would say when someone asks someone, how is the US economy doing, they normally refer to the S&P 500. Number one. Number two, it has a track record of 60 to 70 years. So as you can see, the returns have been phenomenal. In fact, I haven't talked about returns in this presentation, but if you look on a 10-year perspective, the S&P 500 has delivered 18% CAGR, whereas the Nifty has done around 10%. And if you look at it over 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, it has outperformed most of the Indian mutual funds by a huge margin. Half because the underlying stocks have done pretty well, and half because of how the dollar has behaved over the last 10 years. So in terms of, I think, so that's so it's the returns have been great. What it'll do in your portfolio is it'll help you reduce volatility and also give you downside protection. It'll give you access to a dollar, and I think in terms of product, it's very low cost. So with that, I'd like to open it up for questions if anyone would have. But before that, I also wanted to point out that we also have the Nasdaq fund. So the two most popular indices in the US have been Nasdaq and S&P. I have done a webinar with HDFC on the Nasdaq fund. Both are not very similar funds. The Nasdaq is a little bit more technology heavy than the S&P. The S&P is very broad based, very diversified, very, I would say, in terms of risk, it's a lot lower than the Nasdaq. And I think in terms of the biggest sector concentration, the Nasdaq would have technology as almost 47, 48%, whereas S&P would have 23, 24%. So I think that is some of the differences, but I'm happy to answer questions if you guys may have. So we can open it up for questions.
Hi, Pratik. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So we have a couple of questions. We have a couple of questions. One is what you have said about Nasdaq. So Mr. Pratik Datta, he says that he's already invested in Nasdaq 100. Could you please explain if it would be useful for me to get into S&P 500?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So Pratik, great question. In terms of, I think if you're already investing in Nasdaq, so what we are telling investors in terms of an asset allocation is to do 50-50. Why would I say that? Because if you see technology, a house view is that technology is going to be as important in the future than it has been in the past. So we do believe that technology, even though Nasdaq is heavily tech dominated, we feel that it is going to be an important index going forward as well. But we also feel that as an asset allocation strategy, we do feel the need for having an S&P in your portfolio, because an S&P is not really having any sector concentrations, very broad based, very diversified, and there's a reason why it's the largest index. So I think it's a lot more broad based. So just to give an example, the S&P 500 captures 82% of the entire market cap of the US. So it's very comprehensive, whereas Nasdaq is close to 30%. So what I would say as just from an asset allocation strategy, I think a combination of two will lower risk of the portfolio by some amount.
The next question is from Mr. Ravi. He says he only sees growth option for the application. Is there no application for dividend also?
No, so there's no application for a dividend option. Where both are, I think, even Nasdaq fund is. So we have growth options. The reason we have growth options is because we truly believe in the value of dividend compounding. So if you look at dividend compounding, if you look at the S&P over the last 30 years, over the last, I would say 25-30 years, the S&P without dividends has grown 10 times. But if you account for dividends, the S&P has grown 20 times. That is the magic of dividend compounding, and dividend yield in the S&P is on the highest in, I would say, on an index level, almost 2.5% year on year. So you're looking at stocks like Coca-Cola or something which is 5-6% dividend yield. So I think the options that we currently have are just growth options. It makes it easier to manage the fund as well, because we don't have to remit fees back into India in rupees and distribute it. So we can just, because all the assets are held abroad, it's much easier for you to reinvest those proceeds back into the fund.
Yeah.
So we're saving costs.
The next question from Mr. Sunil Saxena. He's asking, what is the size of the MO S&P 500 fund?
Yes, so Sunilji, so we are going through an NFO period right now. So the NFO period ends on the 23rd, which is next Thursday, and we will be launching the fund for subscription on the 29th of April. So we will only know the size of the fund by the 28th of this month. So but we are expecting a lot
Hello. Pratik, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, hi.
Hi. The next question is whether this is a good time to invest in global market when it is falling.
Yeah, so good question in terms of, I think what is the global scenario? So, if you see we were actually supposed to launch this fund in February of this month, and we had some delays in approvals. So, we are launching a fund at a time when markets are down by 15 to 20% or even more. So I think, and if you look at valuations, today, you're looking at valuations under long-term averages. So I think what we are seeing is that anyone getting in today will be super happy in 2 or 3 years time because valuations are attractive. Number one. Number two, if yes, I think the global scenario is a little bit unpredictable. So if people are wary of investing in huge lump sums, what I would also recommend is to stagger out your payments over the next 6 to 12 months. But my recommendation would be to have at least 5, maybe 10 to 15% allocation towards international funds. So I think in terms of I think the quality of the index, let me just give you a little bit of I would say difference between how this crisis is different from the last two. So if you look at the last two crises in the US, one was the financial crisis in 2008. Back then, the PEs or the valuations are very expensive and leverage was very high. If you look at the dot-com boom, the valuations were crazy, like looking at 100, 150 PS, but earnings was zero, because most of these technology companies had no earnings. If you compare that scenario to today, today we're facing with an external crisis. The valuations are below averages, and also the PE ratio, the valuations are below average, and also the earning potential of these companies are phenomenal. If you look at the top 15, 20 companies of this index, they are making a lot of cash flow returns. If you look at the ROEs of the business, it's never been higher. If you look at profit margins, it's never been higher. So I think fund and also dividend yield has been on a 5-year high. So I think what you're seeing is that the quality of companies is actually better than it ever has been. Yes, there will be some impact of the COVID crisis on the earnings, but what I would say is that people who want to start building their portfolio today, it's a great time to start going forward. Also, sorry, I just wanted to add that if people must have noticed the US markets have recovered over the last couple of weeks on the back of stimulus spend. So the US government is spending $2.5 trillion in making sure that US doesn't go into a huge recession. And also, I think the US government has decided to keep the markets open. So I think that's the stock market is at least taking that in a good light. But I think but honestly, it's very hard to say what the future holds like. At least the near future will hold like.
Okay. The next question is how are the tax implications, and is there any limit in investing in this fund?
Yeah, so there is no limit in investing in this fund, so it's an open-ended index fund, which means that we will be taking inflows every day and outflows every day whenever the markets are open. In terms of tax treatment, as per SEBI regulation, all index funds are taxed as debt. So what that means is that you will be, if you sell it at a profit, then debt taxation will apply. Having said that, what we're saying is that this fund should be a part of your permanent asset allocation. So if you keep it for 3 years, then you can take advantage of indexation. What does that mean? What that means is that you can account for inflation. So suppose inflation is 5% a year for the next 3 years. So your 20% tax goes down by 5% every year. So you're effectively, what you're paying is much less than even equity taxation. So this is only after 3 years, but I do believe that because it's an index fund structure, performance will not be an issue. You're just tracking the index, so it's much easier for you to hold on to these products over long term.
One repeated question we are being asked is what should be the strategy? Should we invest in a lump sum in this fund, or should we opt for an SIP kind of a payment?
Yeah, so I think I mean, what I would always suggest is, if you're wary of the situation, what's happening in the US. So if you think that you are a little bit wary, or if you're scared of short-term falls, then what I would say is to stagger your payments out over the next 6 to 12 months. That would be my recommendation. But if you're a type of person, who can take, I would say, a little bit more risk, or who's not afraid of, losing money in the short term, or who can think 3 years ahead, then I would say this is a good time to invest lump sum. So it depends a lot on your risk profile of the customer. I would say most people would probably do the SIP route. And I think that is what I would say is a safe bet at this point in time.
One more repeated question we're getting is there any minimum amount and is there any lock-in period?
Yeah, so there is no lock-in period, and the minimum amount is 500 rupees. So we've kept it very low cost, even though it's expensive for us to manage it. So we want participation from almost everyone. And so it's 500 rupee minimum. And I think, sorry, what's the second question?
Is there any lock-in period? And
there is no lock-in period. There is no lock-in period, but there is an exit load of 1% for up to 3 months. The reason why we have an exit load is because we don't want people trading with this fund, because if you trade, it adds cost to long-term investors who are holding it for a long time. So I think the idea is to disincentivize sort of trading on this fund, number one, because I do recommend this to be a long-term investment. Number two, I think exit loads, is good because it adds to, so whatever money we make in exit load, by regulation, it gets invested back into the fund. So it helps us manage tracking error better.
A lot of young investors are asking, this is going to be the first investment. So is it a good idea to have the first investment in an index fund rather than first trying into a normal Indian mutual funds?
Yeah, I would say, if it's a first investment, then you should probably spread your bets across different mutual funds. So I would say what you should do is have a combination of the S&P 500 index fund, and you should maybe have maybe another Indian mutual fund. So so just to give you my own experience, so Motilal Oswal has launched 6 index funds last year, across large caps, mid caps, small caps, multi caps, and sector, and now we have international as well. So I think that is a good way to start at least building a portfolio. I do think that you should have Indian funds in your portfolio too. So what I would say is that you should maybe have a combination of domestic mutual funds as well as international ones, just like the S&P.
I think we are done with the questions. Thank you very much, Prateek, for joining us. And if you want to leave any last words to the investors. Thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. This has been very fun, and I look forward to participation and more questions from all of you. So I'm very active on social media. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me on maybe Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, and I'll be gladly there to solve all your queries. And yeah, and look forward to seeing your participation. Thank you so much, everyone.